We're good. We're good. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. We're live, our Facebook live here from our campaign headquarters, and we have a very special event today. We've come across some very wonderful people throughout the campaign, and I have with me a bunch of people from Long Beach. They have a lot of important things in their own perspective on this race and why it's so critical for the safety of every single resident in LA County. So we're going to hear from everyone, and we're going to, at the very end, we're going to have a special feature that we're going to release starting tomorrow through campaign day. And we want to urge everyone, you got to get out and vote. November 8th is the last day to vote, 8 p.m. If a ballot got in the mail, which should have gotten in the mail, do not leave it collecting dust. It doesn't do you any good unless you exercise your vote. Turn that ballot in and educate yourself when you vote. So with that, I want to introduce everyone's here. If you can introduce yourself, say a little bit about yourself. Let's start over here on my right.
Good evening. I am Mark McQuire, retired Long Beach homicide detective.
Quincy Miles, former Long Beach police officer.
Jerlene Tatum, Long Beach community member, and I brought some questions from the community of Long Beach.
Albert Vargus, former police officer for Long Beach.
Darrin Neely, currently still a Long Beach police officer for 37 years.
That makes him, he's got a year on me in serving the community. So God bless all of you for your experience and bringing your perspective from Long Beach. So we're going to do some questions from our moderator here, and then we're going to kick it over to our live audience so they can actually write in questions as well, and we'll try to answer all of them as we can. So we'll start with you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for hold it here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to ask you questions.
Still have an alibi here. There we go. Okay, now we're back on board, everyone. So back with us. Let's kick it back to our moderator, wherever you left off. And let's continue.
I'll repeat what I said before. So for folks who were watching us a few moments ago, we lost signal. That happens in Los Angeles. Sometimes you lose signal. But sitting here with former and current law enforcement officers from Long Beach, we get an opportunity to ask the current sheriff and candidate for sheriff some questions. So I'm going to jump right in. I have some questions that I brought from some community members in Long Beach. So I'll ask the first question, and then we'll see if everyone else is ready. Are you ready?
Shoot.
Well, bad analogy, especially for this question. What do you plan on doing about decreasing and eliminating excessive force incidents in our communities, or the communities that the sheriff is responsible for oversight?
Very good question, and there's not a simple answer. And now let's just narrow it down to deputy-involved shootings or officer-involved shootings. We've done research going back 20 years, and the department has averaged 31 deputy-involved shootings every year. And the number of ones that become fatal kind of goes up and down. We looked at the standard deviation, how much it fluctuates. It fluctuates by up to 7 shootings up and down. So you could have a low of 24, you can be up in the 40s, up and down. And it really doesn't correspond to what the department or who the sheriff is of what they're doing. A lot of it is a reaction to events that are happening. For example, most deputy-involved shootings are considered legitimate uses of force because the person involved is involved in a felonious act, armed, and so when the deputies engage the individual with deadly force, is considered justified under the California Penal Code. And that is reviewed by the district attorney, the Office of Inspector General, and now we have a new law where the state attorney general intervenes if it's a lethal use of force and the person was unarmed, for example. So if you look at 2.5 million contacts that we do a year, 2.5 million, and we wind up an average of 31 shootings, you can see that number is very small. If you consider that we arrest on average about 100,000 people a year, actually use of force where the suspect is injured is actually a pretty tiny number. But what is happening now, what we've seen lately, is because of social media, the prevalence of cell phones, few incidents get so much exposure that gives the impression that somehow it's an increasing problem. But mathematically, it really doesn't seem to change a whole lot going back 20 years. And what can we do to reduce it? There's several things. One, you have to very define policy, which we now have. You remember the 8 Can't Wait campaign after George Floyd murder? Our department, we took a hard look at our policies. We had the principles of all 8, but they weren't neck. Not only is the deputy under criminal investigation, and we're waiting on the answer from the DA, but also the supervisor who were present that did nothing and went by, they became subject to investigation for failing to intervene. So we're using these policies as we're creating them. And these are big steps forward. And there's many examples of this. And I'll give you another one. The case that happened in South LA, just I think last Sunday. They caught the attention in the media.
Mm-hmm.
We reached out to Benjamin Crump, who's representing the family, because we have all the body-worn camera. We have all of the surveillance cameras. We have everything. We want him to see everything. And we were able to isolate and slow the whole action down. And when we saw that, there was actually 4 instances where the individual was trying to grab the gun that was in the satchel that first he had, then the deputies pulled it away, then it was kicked back by sub bystander back into the scrum, and then that's where the whole struggle was. So when you see it, then all of a sudden you can appreciate the intensity of the deputies not allowing him to put his hands down. However, we still have concerns about decision making, so we're taking a good look at it and we're investigating it properly. We invited we actually consider this a category 3, the highest level of force, deadly force, because of the head strikes. And our internal affairs team rolled out that night and interviewed everybody, got all the medical records of the suspect. All these things happened the way they're supposed to happen. And now whenever we get the results of the whole investigation, we'll take appropriate action if the deputies were deemed to have used excessive force. In the past, it was real easy to just you don't see anything here. Now everyone is held accountable.
How are you informing the general community of that? Because I'm like, what you shared just now, I have not seen that anywhere. I mean, I keep seeing the video being sent and shared, but what the sheriff's is doing, how do we know? How do we know?
Well, we have, for example, when we have deputy-involved shootings, every single one of these shootings, we put it on our website. We put the body-worn camera if it's available. We put surveillance footage if it's available. We put a summary of the actual incidents with a narrative, kind of walks everybody through it. When we have the coroner's report, if it's a fatality, we put a link to the coroner's report so you can get a copy of that. When the district attorney makes a decision on the legality or not, we also put the DA's decision on there. So we're being as transparent as it can be. There's nothing left to put other than the entire homicide casebook, but that the DA, those things are not released. But most of it is now available publicly because of Senate Bill 1421. So these things did not exist before. None of this stuff happened until I took over, and we started making everything transparent because I want the public to be reassured that we take every single use of deadly force seriously, and the overwhelming majority are unfortunately driven by the action. All right.
Yeah, it says it's going.
Okay.
Say sorry.
How are we doing?
Back on?
We're good. We're back on. Well, sorry, folks, for the second interruption. We're going to try to continue this, and we're getting some very good questions, and keep them coming.
For folks that were listening just now, the sheriff was explaining the policy that's in place in dealing with some of these incidents of what we see as excessive force. For those of you who have been part of law enforcement, what you said
37.
37
He just started.
years?
He's a rookie.
37 years of law enforcement, and how long?
25.
25 of the Long Beach PD.
Yes.
What are you hearing? I mean, is this something that we're thinking about community?
Right.
or even internally, is
Right.
this
This is
good?
I'll go. You want me to go? You gonna go?
Well, actually, this is pretty good. When you look at what has happened in the past as it relates to law enforcement, especially use of force, when I hired on in 1985, the use of force was just a matter of you documenting it in a report and turning it in, and that was pretty much it. Now, and even then, we had something that was called uh, creative report writing, which helped officers to be able to justify their actions and put it on paper that would be part of the report. Uh, I didn't believe in that. I believe if you go out there, you do your job, you get involved in the use of force, you just tell the truth and then let the facts fall where they may. Uh, but what the sheriff is saying now is especially with Senate Bill 1421, that there's so much information that's accessible to the general public in regards to any specific incident that you just have to look it up in order to get the info. And if there's the stuff there that's not there, you can actually call and find out why certain documents aren't there, and they can have it added to the 14 because of the Senate Bill 1421 added to the file so people can actually take a look at it.
Mark McGuire. Additionally, with policies, the sheriff's new policies is very good. Most agencies are supposed to have their use of force policy and all their policies online somewhere public, made public, so that the general public and the communities can read the policies and procedures that law enforcement is supposed to follow for whatever city that you work for. I've been retired 7 years, so when I worked there, I investigated officer-involved shootings and custody deaths. That was my job. I did it for 15 years while I was there. The policy that the sheriff department has is, I think, is pretty phenomenal because it opens up the transparency of the department, and if all departments go to that, it's a good thing. The community just needs to know where to look. You know, if you're looking on the internet, call the department, and all those policies and procedures are there where you can learn how to do it.